What would happen if you could imagine a world where we would all be as one? Well, guess what? Imagine, and so it is. Imagine, and so it shall be. Imagine your life expanding and being all the juicy stuff that you want it to be. Because everything starts in thought. It all starts in the imagine. This is a wonderful day to imagine. There's a thing with us ministers that we talk about. How do we respond when life gives us an opportunity to teach in the moment? Yesterday evening, like most of you, I was aware of the Trayvon Martin verdict of not guilty. Now, what I imagine, there's a lot of pain for obvious reasons, people feeling maybe he should have been, who knows? Right now, what I know is all of our hope and all of who we are rest in imagining this not happening again. Trayvon Martin was one young man that was killed. But since that time, 535 days ago, there have been over 11,000 young people of color that have been killed. That's just the people of color. We don't know about all of the other folks. So what I imagine is a world where it's okay to be who you are. It's okay for your sexual orientation to be acceptable, for your ethnic orientation to be acceptable, for your religious practice to be acceptable, for your cultural differences to not be tolerated, but to be embraced. Because what makes for any good dish is a combination of spices. Nobody wants a salad that only has lettuce in it. We want some other stuff. I had a salad that had some chicken, some pecans, some blueberries, some strawberries, spinach. You want variety in life. So what I imagine is a life full of variety. I want to be able to learn from someone that comes from an Irish culture and be able to teach about what my culture has embraced. So, when John Lennon wrote that song, imagine a world where we can all live as one. And it starts here. It doesn't start out there with your neighbor. It starts with you. So today, in this imagine, start with your personal life. Because this is what I know. Every day, we plant seeds. The difference between the successful person and the unsuccessful person is the successful person plants from a place of consciousness, plants conscious seeds. It's kind of like a farmer. Weeds are everywhere, but a good farm is planned out and the rows are dug and the seeds are carefully planted and nurtured and watered. Every day, all of us are planting seeds. But if you want to know what seeds you have planted, I invite you to look at what you have in your life. If you're unhappy, if you feel lonely, what seeds did you plant? If you're angry and mad at the world and feeling left out, excluded, misunderstood, again, the responsibility lies with me, with the me, the each one of us me. So when we see something showing up in our life, and this is where it gets painful, because like they say, when you know better, you do better. When something shows up in my life that I don't particularly care for, I go to that place of, okay, What's the lesson in this? And what's my responsibility? Because what I know is I have a responsibility. I have planted some seed. And what I've learned, and I was thinking about it earlier this week because I do some work with teens. And in my thinking, I said, what dictates how we move on a daily basis? One, yes, it's the seeds we've planted, and we see them cropping up in our life. And they may crop up as a loving relationship, as loving friends, as a good job, whatever it may be. But there's another fertilization for those seeds. It's called, am I going to respond to the seeds that I have, or am I going to react to the seeds that are cropping up in my life? Now, let me explain that there's what they call a distinct difference. See, when you respond, you're standing in your power. You're responding from a logical thinking about it, a conscious place, and you say, if I water it and put this on it, it's going to grow up and be this. Now, when you react, it usually comes from our feelings. And you ever see somebody that has an emotional reaction? They're usually out of control, and they're feeling like a victim. And look what they are doing to me. They have given away all their power. But when you respond, you retain all your power. When you react, you give away your power. When you respond, you accept responsibility. When you react, you become a victim. Oh, look what they have done to me. So this is where I choose to stand. I stand in response. Because, see, this is where all the power is. I get to choose what I respond to. Even if I planted seeds and did not consciously realize I wasn't going to like how it looked, I get to say, okay, I accept responsibility for this. How do I not plant that seed again? Where do I need to go? And this is how the power of meditation and prayer come in, and they become that guardian ray of sunlight for you. Because when you start to pray and you start to meditate, and when you start to meditate every day, you consciously train your mind to only plant the seeds that you want to grow. There's an old book, a gentleman by the last name of Nightingale came out with years ago, and he calls it Aladdin's lamp. And it says, you get what you think about most of the time. You get what you think about most of the time. So train your mind to think about the things that you want. Imagine the things that you want, not for somebody else to do, but for you to do. And I looked on YouTube, not YouTube, but Facebook last night, and everybody I know had a comment about this trial. And it was all reactionary. Only 2 people, and they happened to be minister friends of mine, responded with what they were going to take responsibility for. They said, so we are broken. The system has been broken. This family has been broken. And whether we agree or not, Zimmerman's family has been broken. So let our hearts break wide open and let us create something new. It's okay to have the pain. It's okay to have that reaction. But what are you going to create from it? What we don't need is to create more of the stuff that got us where we are in the first place. Because you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that got you the problem. Anger doesn't solve anger. It just creates more anger. Hatred doesn't solve hatred. It creates more anger. Nobody ever wins in a war. So what I imagine is, how can I, the little Judy-Ann, imagine and create something that is healing? And I can do it. And you can do it. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay. 16 months ago, a young African-American male was walking home from a store with a hoodie on, eating a bag of Skittles and drinking a soda pop. And a neighborhood watch security guard approached him, and the kid was walking, the guy was in a car. There was a conversation. I don't know the details. Anyway, George Zimmerman, gets out of his vehicle, and he and this 17-year-old kid get into a physical altercation. Zimmerman, who was not on duty, he was off duty, pulls out a gun, and the young kid ends up dead. Zimmerman has some scratches and wounds on him. It's in Florida, and part of the defense is, in the state of Florida, they have a law, imminent danger. If you feel as if you're in imminent danger, then you have the legal right to protect yourself. So that's what happened with the Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman case. And I apologize. I assumed everyone, whether they watched TV or not, was aware of what happened. So what rose up from that was people of color were taken back to 1954 when Emmett Till was killed in the South because a young white girl said he looked at her. They captured, he was 14. They captured Emmett Till. They killed him. They beat him to death. They cut off his genitalia, and they put him in a lake. Emmett Till wasn't from the South. He had went to the South to visit his family. He was from Chicago. So they bring his body back to Chicago. And they're explaining to his mother the devastation of it. And she says, they said, we cannot show his body, it's too disfigured. And she said, there will be an open casket because I want America to see what has happened, what you have done to my son. So when this happened with Trayvon Martin, it triggered some old unhealed wounds because they never captured the people that did that to 14-year-old Emmett Till. Now, mind you, I grew up all my life hearing the Emmett Till story. And I was I was a toddler when it happened to him. But that pain, and this is what happens when you have unhealed wounds. If you're going to bandage a wound, you got to take the blade out first. But what America did was we put a Band-Aid over the Emmett Till wound, but we left the blade in. So when the situation with Trayvon Martin happened, what happened? The Band-Aid was ripped off, but the blade was still there. And people remember, oh, we have gone back in history, and now you're twisting the knife again. Is that true? Absolutely not. What I know is everything that we view as an injustice is actually a catalyst for something else to take place. So what I imagine is that Trayvon Martin wound get cleaned out and people stop reacting and start responding and start taking some responsibility for the death of children in this country, whether it's Sandy Hook or Columbine or the bombing in Oklahoma or the World Trade. We know this stuff goes on, but see, it isn't critical because we collectively are not imagining that we are our brother's keeper. We're not collectively imagining that we are all responsible. because we think it's somebody else's job. I'm going to just react to what I see, but they need to fix it. That's what we say. Well, guess what? We are the they. So when John Lennon talked about living in a country without borders, where we can all live as one, he didn't say, you need to be just like me or I need to be just like you. What he meant was we need to honor each other's differences because they are the beauty of what life is all about. And consciously decide today to honor our responsibility. See, these seeds that we plant, 90% of them are unconscious seeds. Because you know why? 80% of what any one of us does on any given day is repetitious. We wake up at the same time to the same alarm clock. We get out and we drink the same brand of coffee. We eat the same breakfast. We drive the same route to work. We do the same job. We talk to the same people. We go to lunch at 12 o'clock, and we're not imagining anything. We're just trying to get through the day. But now, here's what happens when you imagine. When you say, something has happened, how do I get to be different? What is my responsibility in that? My responsibility is to get to know my neighbor. My responsibility is to check myself when I see someone or a woman wearing a burqa. You all know what a burqa is? The Muslim women wear it. It's the black thing with they look through like this, and it's a black habit. I need to check my thoughts. What judgments do I have about that? What judgments do I have when I see a Hispanic lady pushing a baby buggy? She got 2 in the buggy and 2 walking behind her. What judgments do I have about that? What judgments do I have about Paris Hilton walking around doing God only knows what, but just being cute all day? What judgments do I have? I'm not the only one. See, that's when we start checking our responsibility and start imagining, what if I just accept that that woman that's walking these babies in the strollers doing the best she can, and that she has a right to the pursuit of happiness just like I do? What are my judgments when I go to the bank and all the tellers are speaking Spanish? And how many times have you heard someone that, hey, this country's turning into Mexico? What judgments do I have? What judgments do I have when I see a young man with his pants sagging down and his belt up under his belt? Oh, I used to see that. I'll be honest. I used to see it and go straight off. Oh, if it was my child, I'd be beating him all the way. But see, that's a judgment. It is a judgment. So this is what I choose to say when I see that. I say, oh, blessing. And I'm learning my responsibility is to love that child right where he is. He does not need to do anything else for me to love him, because I am imposing my values where men walked around with the belt up here on him. No, I don't want to see his underwear. But I'll tell you what, getting mad with him is not going to make him pull his pants up. What if I love him enough that he pulls his pants up? See, that's what I'm saying. This is when you start responding and not reacting to your environment. Because it's so easy to look at what, and I know those people are doing. Now, you know, whenever you hear somebody say, well, you look at, you know, those people, what you really mean is everybody that doesn't look like me. Well, you know, the man. How many times do we, well, the man is, no. That's giving away your power. Whenever you say the man, what man? You the man, you the man. You and you're the man. Stand up and be in that. But we make judgments. So what I imagine is the only thing you and I can do right today to change any of this is to be accountable and responsible for the energy that we put in the world. That's where your responsibility lies. Because here's the thing. We put it out there, and everybody, right now, everyone in here is releasing their energy into this space. It's safe in here. That's why we get together as community, because it feels warm and gushy. But we need to take that out in the world. We can't be like the little children. Have you ever seen children where they'll have each other in a hole, and then they say, you let me go? No, you let me go first. There's no trust there. They're afraid that if I let you go first, you're going to hit me and run. Somebody has to be willing to let go first. Why not let it be me? Why, when I pass someone that really looks real different from me, why don't I speak to them? Because this is what I know. As different as I may look to you, you look equally as different to me. And I can't make any judgments. See, so that's what happened. Trayvon Martin, Zimmerman acted, but Zimmerman acted out of some fear and some beliefs that he had. And where did he get them? Trayvon Martin acted out of his fear and his beliefs. And we're all responsible. So that's why we need to live in each other's neighborhoods, get to know each other, and ask those critical questions. As a hospice chaplain, I was dealing with a situation, and I had to call in a rabbi this week. And I had not dealt with a real rabbi. And I dealt with two of them. And they had different views on the same subject. And the subject was cremation. One said, look, I'm Orthodox. We don't do services for cremation. The other one is Reformed, whatever that means. He said, I can do it. But what I came away with was an appreciation for both of them. The one that is sticking true to his beliefs, and the one that says, maybe there needs to be a change. See, we tend to forget that the United States is the result of people looking for a change. The original 13 colonies said, look, Britain, we got to cut you loose because you're not giving us any right to speak up, to vote, have any control, so we succeeding from your control because we want to grow. And that 13 colonies, 13 original states grew and grew and grew, and we must evolve and grow. We can't afford to just have relationships with people that look like us. The Asians got to stay over here, the Hispanics here, the black folk. No, we all lose. Because whatever is going on, we all breathe in the same air, waking up under the same sun, and the same God that created me created you. And you. So he chose to give me black nappy hair that I just happen to love. And he gave you red hair. I can't, who am I to criticize that? So what I imagine is that who I am in my beingness be acceptable because I sure am doing all I can to accept you. Right where you are. I imagine all of our children being safe. I imagine all of us taking responsibility. I imagine us seeing any injustice and being able to address it regardless of the color that it represents or the religious belief. I imagine that There can be a block with a religious science church on it, a Pentecostal church on it, and a Muslim mosque on one end, and a Jewish synagogue on the other. And everybody be able to come out and say good morning. Is it possible? Absolutely. As long as we can stand in a place that just like God created roses, God created the cactus in the desert. One is no less beautiful than the other. They're just different. Doesn't make any one of us wrong. All these, quote, holy wars. Now, what's holy about a war? There's nothing holy about it. So us living as one means us living as visitors on this planet. You heard what I said, we're visiting. Nobody has permanent residence here. And I asked the question, where is God in your imagination? Where is God when you imagine? Waiting on you to take action. Because anything that you see, whether it's this little box or that purse or this microphone, someone imagined this technology. They imagined making these speakers. They imagined making that purse. And they responded by making a prototype. And God supported that effort. So when we go out there and we talk about imagining, imagine that if the world is going to work, it has to start with me. The seeds that I plant, you don't know what seeds you're planting, and you don't know how far-reaching these seeds are. I'll tell you how I know this to be a fact. I ate an apple one day, and don't ask me why. I thought I was bored, but I lined the seeds up. Do this next time you eat an apple. Just line the seeds up. Oh, you can count the seeds in one apple. Oh, but you can't count the apples that can come out of that one seed. They plant that seed. Oh, you don't know how many apples gonna grow on the tree out of that one seed. But you take an apple. And this is us. We're apples. Oh, you can count the seeds. It's gonna be 7, 8, maybe 10 seeds. But if you take that seed and plant a tree, you don't know how many apples are gonna come out of that seed. So when we imagine something and we start doing it, we in turn give other people permission to step out of their comfort zone. When you speak to this, quote, the stranger at the grocery store and say, how are you today? And they look. And then you speak to someone else, they say, oh, I'm doing good. What's up? Well, what do you think about? You realize that you're getting in relationship. And the crazy thing about it is, if you on this planet, you in relationship anyway. We're all interwoven. You take anyone in this room, if we talk long enough, we're going to know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows you. That's life. That is absolutely life. We're not these little islands. We're threads in this whole tapestry called life. We're in here, and the energy of all the people that were here this morning, the people that were here Wednesday and last Sunday, their energy is still here. So let's be accountable and responsible for what comes out of our mouths. Let's be accountable and responsible for the thoughts that we're putting out into the universe. Let's not talk about those folks. Let's imagine those folks ain't talking about us either. Because this is what I know. When I fall in love with you, you have no choice but to fall in love with me. Because love is love. It knows no color. It knows no religion. It knows no boundaries. So I invite us to just go into the place of love and imagine a world that truly does work. There's a little book out, and it's an old book by Ken Keyes, and it's called The 100th Monkey. If you've never read it, you can read it in a couple of hours. It is one of the most profound little simple books about how life works. The 100th Monkey is about a monkey on an island that they love yams, and he starts washing the yam off. And then they noticed that several of the other monkeys on this island started washing their yams before they ate them. And then when they left the island, what they noticed was monkeys all over the world were watching their yams. So if you start loving and suspending your judgments, and I start doing it, we start being the change we want to see. Thank you for being here. We're going to do a prayer that's going to take us into opening up that place of love. Because what I know is whatever happened with Sandy Hook and Columbine and Trayvon Martin, we have all been wounded by it. Zimmerman, we are all wounded by it. There's no one that gets away from feeling wounded, whether we know about it or not. So let's not put a bandage on the wound with the blade still there. So I invite you to stand up or sit up and allow JJ to sing us into the silence.